Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Offside, as well as their lead Lakers creator. I am not joined on this fine, Wednesday night by Raj Tapalu. He has a family thing that he is tending to. So all of our, thoughts, prayers, and vibes go out to Raj while he and his family deal with that. I am here to join by you guys, though, as we all get together and celebrate one of the more kind of fun wins that I think this is probably the funnest win that the Lakers have gotten so far this year. Obviously, only 5 games into the season, but I do think this is going to be one of those wins that we look back on as like, yeah, it was kind of dumb for a little while, and oof, man, it felt like they might lose this one. But overall, winning in Minnesota without Luka, without LeBron, yes, against the Minnesota Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards, like it still was a really fun win as we continue to see Austin Reaves take care of business. So we'll talk about this game. We will talk about Austin Reaves. We will talk about Jake LaRavia and Dalton Knecht living up to the exciting Whites meme. We'll talk about DeAndre Ayton, I think, thoroughly outplaying Rudy Gobert. And we will talk about some of the updates that we have gotten in terms of health and availability, where we might only potentially be looking at, a couple more games without Luka, at which point he would come back and the Lakers would have two players who could dribble across half court. So that would be really exciting as well. And then obviously over the course of the show, if you guys have any questions or comments, hit me with them and I'll try to get to them at the end of this here episode. So let's go ahead and dive on in. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. Please do hit that like button if you guys are watching here on YouTube. If you guys are watching on Twitter, please head on over to YouTube and find the show at youtube.com/@LakersLounge. If you guys are listening to this show in the morning via podcast, please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey, because I'm a company man. But you know what? Whether it's Spotify or iTunes, wherever, it all helps. Hit those 5-star reviews, though, while you're there, hitting all of the nice buttons as well. Let's go ahead and dive on in, man. This was a fun win. So the Lakers beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. The final is 116-115. The Lakers were up at one point by more than 20 or 20 points, I think. I don't know if it was more than, but it was definitely 20 points. And I thought took their eyes completely off of the ball, including JJ Redick in this one. They went to the all bench lineup, and the bench lineup, I thought kind of dropped, where it wasn't as impressive as it needed to be. Of note, worth noting, I thought, that bench group. So the Lakers played total tonight 9 guys. They played their starters, which was Austin, Jake, Jared, Rui, and Ayton. That was their starting group. Then they played Dalton Knecht 36 minutes. And then Jackson Hayes only played 13. Nick Smith Jr. only played 10. Bronny only played 5. Did not touch the court in the second half. And I thought that was actually the right call from JJ Redick. I think Bronny is looking forward to G League play where he can just kind of go focus on developing or just not being a Laker for a while and not having that microscope on him. But the Lakers down the stretch here, JJ went with Dalton down the end of through the end of the game, and the thing that was kind of crazy was watching the I understand Dalton's finally playing well. You want to give him a little bit more, confidence going through, allowing him play through to the end of the game. I know JJ Redick is always going to value spacing above all else, but at the end of the day, you got to win the game. And the Lakers, they were up by 20, and they were up by double digits in that fourth quarter. And it seemed like the situation called for more defense on the court, not another shooter. But JJ just kept sticking with Dalton and Austin and LaRavia. And that foot speed issue that we've been talking about basically since Marcus Smart and Gabe Vincent went down, it really bit them. Nobody could basically stay in front of anybody. They were getting killed in transition. They were getting killed in transition with transition threes, and almost cost them the game. Honestly, probably should have cost them the game. Austin winds up bailing out JJ there at the end. JJ also called a timeout there, which again, like, it's good that Dalton or that Austin made that shot to end the game there. But had he not, that extra timeout would have come in handy if they needed to advance the ball. And JJ winds up calling a timeout after the Austin got fouled by Rudy Gobert. It was a really weird fourth quarter for JJ Redick. And one of the things that I've been a little nervous about with JJ is he gets a little too close to the game sometimes and really kind of struggles to zoom out or struggles to separate himself from the emotions of a game. And again, like, I have coached, and I remember when I first coached, I found myself, rooting and cheering and doing all these things. And then eventually I was like, oh shit, I got to make a sub, and it happens, and that was me at the high school level. This is JJ Redick at the professional level. And I thought down the stretch of that game, JJ is just kind of sitting there, and if it was Darvin, he would have had his hands in his pockets while Minnesota's going on this run, and the Lakers clearly needed another defender out there or another physical presence, and JJ just kind of refused to make that sub. So overall, though, the Lakers get the win, and it's an incredibly important win. I'm not considering that loss to Portland on the second night of a back-to-back one of those losses that's really going to bite them at the end of the season. Again, it's the second night of a back-to-back. You wind up going 500 in those games by the end of the season anyway. But going to Minnesota and winning in Minnesota, that's one of those games, or that's one of those wins that will cross off one of the dumber losses that the Lakers are going to take later in the season. And it's not to say that, like, I'm not saying that to disparage the Lakers in any way. Every team picks up dumb losses over the course of the season. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to wipe out those dumb losses with good wins. And this is one of those good wins that you stack up early in the year. And yeah, it helps that Anthony Edwards wasn't available, and it helps that Minnesota is still kind of trying to figure out their defensive identity now that they don't have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they're starting Dante DiVincenzo instead of Mike Conley, who I think is a steadier defender and a steadier presence for that team. Like, while Minnesota is kind of figuring all of this out, well, everybody's figuring shit out early in the season. This is the time that you want to sneak some of these wins in there when you can get them, and the Lakers did just that. So that, like, it's hard for me to be that frustrated over the Lakers, giving up all of that lead and needing an Austin Reaves game winner to win this one. I really don't care. Like, win the freaking game is how I felt about it by the end of it. And yeah, there are some like red flags there, and I'm still a little nervous about JJ Redick as a head coach, but at the end of the day, for this game specifically, the Lakers did what they needed to do. They picked up the win that they needed to pick up, given the situation that they had put themselves in with all of the work that they did for the first 3.5 quarters. Like, the Lakers did more than enough to win this game. And fortunately, they didn't do quite enough to lose this game. And really all that matters is that final score, for the sake of looking at this game within the construct of the larger NBA season. Let's talk about Austin. Austin Reaves goes for 28 points. He had 16 assists. He shot 9 of 24 from the field, 3 of 11 from three-point range, 7 of 7 from the free throw line. He had 2 steals, only 3 turnovers, which is kind of insane given how much time he spent on the ball. Just an overall incredible game for Austin, given that like there were multiple times the ESPN broadcast paused the game or paused a play while they were replaying it and showed 10 eyeballs on Austin Reaves, the guy guarding him, and everybody else that was on the court defensively was focused on Austin. They had Jaden McDaniels guarding Austin full court, whether he had the ball or not. You had Dante DiVincenzo guarding Austin whenever, up and down the court, whenever Jaden McDaniels wasn't on him. Mike Conley spent some time on him. Terrence Shannon Jr. spent some time on him. Like, Minnesota understood that the only way the Lakers were going to beat them tonight was if Austin was special again. And guess what? He was. And I'm starting to look, let's set aside all of the nonsense from earlier this summer when I was fighting with you guys about whether or not the Lakers should trade this guy for a backup center. Let's set that aside. Let's just leave that there. I'll go ahead and take my win and we will move on. Here's the crazy thing. Through these 3 games that they haven't had Luka, that they haven't had LeBron, and if you want to extend this back to last season, Austin is producing at an elite level offensively. Yes, there are some defensive concerns, but there are defensive concerns about every elite producer for the most part. There are defensive concerns about Tyrese Halliburton. There are defensive concerns about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when he gets deep into the playoffs. Like, there are defensive concerns about Luka for that matter, right? Like, I'm wondering at this point if even I, given how high I am on Austin's game, if even I have undersold him to a certain extent. Is he like a max player? Now, I know there are going to be people in the chat who are going to say, "Oh, he's regular season player, he's a 82 game player, and he's not a 16 game player, and he's this and he's that." Maybe he was not healthy last year. Like, he was not. I've spoken to Lakers people and worked to confirm some of those reports after the fact about where Austin's body was at last year. And I'm here to say, like, he just wasn't healthy in that series. And by the way, that isn't coming from Austin's people. That's coming from like Lakers people and even some Minnesota people who watched him in that series and like watched him after games. And they were like, yeah, he never looked quite right. And I understand that, like, look, there, like, the stats do indicate there are some concerns with his shooting ability as you get deeper into the playoffs. There are some concerns about him defensively as you get deeper into the playoffs. Totally fair. I'm not saying don't bring those questions up. I'm not saying that this guy is like a super duper max level player. But at the max that he might be potentially getting next year as the cap goes up, and depending on the way that you structure his contract moving forward, like, I do think it is worth kind of wondering what number he would potentially get. And by the way, this isn't just a Lakers thing. Like, we might all have a number that we have in mind for him within the confines or the construct of his negotiation with the Lakers specifically. But that's a very different thing than Austin going out there as an unrestricted free agent in an offseason where there are going to be teams that are going to need an elite engine like Austin appears to be and will have cap space. Like, those are things that you need to take into account here. And look, he's done it 3 different ways here, right? He had 51 points in a win, almost a 51-point triple-double. As I said to Raj that night, there might only be a handful of individual statistical performances better than that one than we saw against Sacramento. You could say, oh, you could write it off. You could say, well, it's Sacramento. They are an absolute joke of a franchise. They are an absolute joke of an NBA roster. They will not defend anybody this season. And I would say, okay, all right, fair. All right. Then he goes to Portland, who, by the way, embarrassed Golden State earlier this season. That same Golden State team that embarrassed every nerd's favorite team, the Clippers, the other night. The Portland Trailblazers have Toumani Camara, who is an elite on-ball defender, all NBA caliber defender. Drew Holiday, one of the best on-ball defenders at the point guard position that the league has ever seen. They have athleticism up and down that roster, and they have elite rim protection. All Austin does is drop another 41 points in that one. And yeah, he did turn the ball over too much, and the Lakers did lose that game. But he did that on the second night of a back-to-back against, again, a defense that he was priority line 1 for. And that's that I would go so far as to say that by the end of the season, Portland is going to have a top 5 defense. Top 10 at worst. And Austin was priority line 1 without Luka, without LeBron to help out. Austin was priority line 1. He still dropped 40 on those guys. Then the following night, he goes up against the Minnesota Timberwolves team, who last year was an elite defensive team. Now, yes, they don't have Anthony Edwards, and when he is engaged, is a very, very good defensive presence, especially on the perimeter. Yes, they did lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker to Atlanta, and that also has impacted their defense this season. But they did have Jaden McDaniels in this one. He's an all-NBA caliber defender. Mike Conley gave Austin Reaves problems in the playoffs as recently as throughout the series that the Lakers lost in that one. He didn't seem to matter very much in this one. Austin got into the paint basically at will, turned the corner basically at will, almost no matter who was guarding him. And then at the end of the game, put Rudy Gobert, who is going to be one of the more decorated defenders in the history of the league, put him on skates and knocks down a game winner when, again, everybody in the arena knew that the only guy that Minnesota needed to keep the ball out of his hands was Austin. He gets the ball. He turns the corner. He splits the help on that pick and roll. He gets into the paint, sees the help coming, knocks down that runner with that elite defender on his back. And again, he was priority number 1, 2, and maybe even 3 as Minnesota was setting up their defense for that play. Twice, by the way. First, Rudy Gobert fouls him on purpose. And then the second time, Austin is able to get that shot. Like, I don't know, man. I truly don't know at what point do we start considering Austin one of the better handful of offensive players in the NBA. And look, we'll see what it looks like when it comes time for him to fit into the construct of a Luka Doncic team or a Luka and LeBron team. Like, that's going to be interesting to watch too. I would point back to the work that I reported LeBron was going to do this last offseason as a catch and shoot threat or as somebody who would attack off of the catch, something that LeBron, confirmed at Media Day. And we'll see like what kind of chameleon LeBron is capable of being to fit, within, or to optimize those lineups when he is out there with Luka and Austin. I do think one of the things that the Lakers are going to have to find a way to really prioritize here moving forward is getting more out of Luka on the ball or getting him more opportunities on the ball. And just given the fact of how successful they have been whenever Austin has been on the ball, whether it's with Luka, whether it's with like this is the crazy thing. When even before Luka got to LA, the Lakers were running pick and rolls with him and LeBron, whether it was traditional or inverted. Like the Lakers have understood now for a while, and importantly, LeBron has understood for a while that Austin is worth trusting with the ball in his hands when you have possessions like they did tonight. And it's time to win a basketball game, or it's time to put away a basketball game. LeBron has routinely given the ball to Austin. And when you go through LeBron's career, it's only a handful of guys that LeBron has openly and comfortably given the ball to somebody else in some of those possessions. It's like Kyrie, it's Wade, and it's Austin. So, yeah, I don't know, man. This is going to be a conversation that's going to extend through the rest of the season, and it's going to extend well beyond the season as we get ready for Austin's impending free agency. But the run that Austin is on right now, and I saw some people comparing it to Linsanity. It's not Linsanity. This dude has gradually improved every single season he has been in the NBA. Linsanity was special because Jeremy Lin came out of nowhere to be the type of player that he became then for the New York Knicks. This is Austin Reaves proving in that mini camp to the Lakers, holy shit, we got to give this guy a contract. Then proving to the Lakers throughout that season, holy shit, we got to get this guy rotation minutes. Then proving in his next year, to LeBron, holy shit, this guy should have the ball late in these games. Go win us this game against the Utah Jazz, Austin Reaves. And then proving last season to Luka and to LeBron, holy shit, this guy is on our level offensively when he's given those opportunities. And then now again, proving without those guys in the lineup, without those guys drawing attention away from him, proving to the league, proving to hopefully everybody who was watching this with open eyes and who was watching this not for the sake of winning an argument, but to enjoy basketball, let alone Lakers basketball. Holy shit, this guy might actually be special. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the other guys who helped win the Lakers this game here. Jake LaRavia is the first guy who comes to mind. 27 points for him on 10 of 11 shooting, 5 of 6 from three-point range. Hilariously, 2 of 5 from the free throw line, which is super weird. He did grab 8 rebounds, dished out a couple assists, had a steal and a block, and turned around. I think he was like a minus 27 in his last game. In this game, he was a plus 3. Jake LaRavia. So Jake strikes me as one of those guys who everybody on the court knows he's good. Like he can knock down shots. He can do this. He can do that. Like Jake LaRavia comes. All right. So I really hate talking about my basketball career to the extent that I have the last couple weeks or so. But so I played in high school, played varsity and all that stuff, but really like was a completely unheralded basketball player for all of my time in high school. I entered high school 5'0" and 100 nothing, and I graduated at like 5'8", 5'9", like 165 or so. Those were the days. So I go to college, and I went to college at Cal State Fullerton, and they had just built this beautiful rec center. Or they built it like while I was there. I think they finished it around my like sophomore year or so in college. And I used to play there with a bunch of guys who were like actually good high school basketball players, or occasionally some of the guys from the actual Fullerton team would go in there and they would play pickup, and I would play with those guys. And it was always really funny because I never thought I was really honestly all that good. But the other guys just kept telling me, shoot the ball, You got this guy, go buy this guy, go at this guy, go defend this guy. And they had a lot more confidence in me than I had in myself. And it was just because like I had no reason to be confident. I was not a very good high school basketball player. And so I get there and like eventually like I did kind of realize, oh, I guess I am all right at this. And you know, the guys that I played with, they like I remember the first time I really kind of went off and my buddy Kai kind of came back to the sideline and he, you know, kind of like shoves me in the chest. He's like, "Motherfucker, like that's what we've been asking for this whole fucking time, you know." And he like gives me the shove in the chest, and it was kind of this like funny moment. And I'm watching LaRavia tonight, and it really kind of felt like that moment for him where he's on this brand new team. He's on this team with Luka Doncic, with LeBron James, with Austin Reaves, hell, even with Rui Hachimura and DeAndre Ayton to a lesser extent because he's also new here. But you could just tell that to this point, LaRavia has been just kind of trying to fit in, been kind of reluctant to pull the trigger on some of these shots, been really, especially reluctant to really kind of force his shot and force his scoring. In this case tonight, though, it was just like, you know what? And I don't know if somebody got in his ear. I don't know what happened there, but he was a lot more willing to let her rip. And and it felt like that moment where for a basketball, because I do think he's a smart basketball player. Like I do think he's a heady basketball player. He's a very self-aware and outwardly aware basketball player. And tonight though was the first time that he appeared to just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna let it fly. And by the end of the game, like you could see when he would go there to the sideline, you would see his teammates be like, see, let her rip, dude. Let it fly. And I do kind of wonder if this is going to be one of, and look, he might come back tomorrow and or not tomorrow, but in their next game and not shoot the ball as well and maybe not look as confident. Progress isn't a linear thing. But I do kind of what I will say is I don't think the kind of progress that the Lakers need from Jake LaRavia would have been possible without this game, where he just said, "Bleep it, I'm going to let it fly," and then also importantly saw the ball go through the hoop, and also importantly that the Lakers win that game because I do think he does strike me as like a winning basketball player. So like I think LaRavia is worth kind of isolating in this context, because he's somebody that the Lakers like they're going to need his high quick release. They're going to need his activity defensively. They're going to need his size at times too on the wing. Um, and this was one of those games that, like, by the end of it, you could really see him like looking for the basketball. Whereas before it was like, well, I could shoot it here, but I'm going to take this side dribble and up. Look, the defense closed out. I'm going to kick it back out. No, tonight it was like attacking closeouts if they were closing out hard to him, or if they weren't closing out hard to him, stepping right into jumpers and right into open 3-pointers with confidence and knocking him down. It was a really cool game to watch here for Jake LaRavia, and one that I hope that he can build off of, whether it's immediately or long term. Really cool showing here for LaRavia, and one that I think resonated with his teammates. Another guy who I thought I want to point out for a couple of reasons. So I'll get to Dalton in a second, but I'm going to go with Rui Hachimura next. He played 37 minutes, which only behind Austin and tied with LaRavia for the most on the night. He shot 7 of 14 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3-point range, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 17 points. He was tied for the third most points scored on the night. Austin had 28, LaRavia had 27, and then Rui and Ayton had 17, and then Knecht had 15. The reason I say all of that is because normally in a game like this, Rui would kind of expect himself to be one of the absolute leading scorers here. So like maybe Austin leads the way, but then Rui would be next up. And I want to give credit to Rui Because you look at the shot totals here. So Austin shot the most 24 times, and he got to the free throw line 7 times. Um, Ayton shot, or no, then you have Rui was next up there. He shot 14 times, went 2 of 2 from the free throw line. But outside of that, though, with in terms of shot the number of shots that went out, LaRavia was there at 11 field goal attempts, and he shot more free throws, so he probably got as many opportunities as Rui did. Ayton shot 11 field goals and then shot a couple of free throws as well. Knecht shot 12. So it was like a very it was a very equal assortment of shot attempts after Austin. And sometimes with Rui, if that is the case, you'll see him kind of float. And tonight it was really cool to watch him, even while he wasn't maybe getting the number of shots that maybe he would think he should. It was really cool to see him get in there, be physical, create extra possessions. He grabbed 5 rebounds tonight, a couple of which were offensive rebounds, dished out 4 assists. And I thought, like, was he always as impactful as he kind of needed to be? No. And are there times where I did find myself like, I thought Julius Randle got the better of him physically quite a few times. So there is clearly some room for improvement with Rui, but I thought it was a very mature game from Rui Hachimura. And I say that it was mature in that, like, he didn't have like the 30-point game that made him, focus on the defensive side or on rebounding because he was that involved in the game. His production was on par with a lot of his teammates, and I still thought that he was the kind of engaged that he needed to be defensively and physically, to give the Lakers the best chance at winning. All right, let's talk about Dalton. And I still have to talk about DeAndre Ayton, and then I promise I will get to more of your guys' comments. But let's talk about Dalton. First half against Portland was a freaking disaster. And that was why I sent out that tweet of like, this guy's going to be out of the league if this kind of stuff continues. Second half against Portland happens. And yeah, some of it was kind of like garbage time or garbage time adjacent. Man. Yeah, it was like garbage time adjacent with some of those minutes for Dalton. But at the end of the day, like, there were stretches of garbage time where it didn't matter if it was garbage time or real minutes. Like, Dalton just did not look like he belonged on an NBA court. Second half happens against Portland. He sees the ball go through a few times. He starts to get a little bit more confidence there. And by the end of that game, it was hard to argue that he didn't look like he belonged on that court. So I specifically, my bad, everybody. I specifically watched Dalton tonight, and I wanted to see if the Lakers were going to involve him early and see if they could get him an easy look early to kind of carry that momentum from the second half of that Portland game on into this one. And if I'm remembering correctly, I sounded like Collinsworth. Well, yeah, I just, but like, if I'm remembering correctly, Dalton gets a dunk early-ish in the game. And I think Legler even noticed this too. And I think it's worth noting when Legler notes this, because he also was a shooter. Like, I was a shooter, and we all kind of think the same. We need to see the ball go through the hoop, get to the free throw line, get that, get your it's like a golfer, right? Like, I always feel the best going into a round of golf if I'm able to just go out and chip a bunch. And it's just a matter of like focusing on the little things, focusing on your fundamentals, getting your rhythm under control, and very importantly, having some success, hitting a nice chip, you making good contact, seeing the ball go through the hoop. Like Dalton getting that early dunk. I think he had another drive where he hit like a mid-range jumper as well. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, that's new. And he was able to carry that momentum out through the rest of the game. And then even more importantly, I thought defensively, yes, he had his lapses, and there were some times where it was like, yeah, it's Dalton. But there were also some times where he used his size and he used his athleticism and he used his understanding as a scorer and as a shooter where he needed to stand to kind of muck up the guy who was guarding's chances at scoring. And he had that block in transition against, I think it was Dillingham. He actually blocked at one point Naz Reed's shot. I don't know if he got credit for the Reed one. Yeah, let's see, Dalton. Oh, he has 2 blocks on his record, so maybe they did count that one too. So, like, Dalton, I thought for the most part, like, not only was he a capable scorer in ways that the Lakers really, really needed him to be, but I also thought he was an engaged defender who was not the kind of liability um, to where he needed to be an elite offensive threat and offensive presence. And that's really all that the Lakers need from him. Be not a disaster defensively, and then be good offensively, right? And that's how you get to the point of being a net positive player. That's all the Lakers have always wanted from him. And it's like, understand the plays that we're running, understand the point of like situational basketball, but then also like on a more macro level, don't be terrible defensively, and then go out there and keep the defense on honest offensively. And I thought that's we got. I thought that's what the Lakers got from him tonight. All right, finally, you got DeAndre Ayton. He plays 35 minutes, 8 of 11 from the field, 17 points, 10 boards, a few assists, a steal, and a block. Did have a couple of turnovers and was a net neutral on the game, but I thought overall from Ayton, I thought he thoroughly outplayed Gobert, and like to the point where he was punching the bully in the mouth, where he was going at Gobert offensively. He was going at him in isolation. He was going at him in the post. He was looking for opportunities to score on Rudy Gobert. And when a player goes at an elite defender like that, that has a trickle down effect on the confidence of everybody else when they go to the hoop or in their willingness to go to the hoop and challenge a player like Gobert. And I thought Ayton tonight, like there were some moments where I thought he got, a little out physical and stuff like that. He just doesn't have the best motor defensively. So that's just kind of going to come with the territory. But with Ayton, like I just really enjoy watching that dude play offense. I'm gonna say this, and I'm not saying this like specifically to crap on Anthony Davis, who I hope he's okay. He left the Dallas Mavericks game early tonight. But it used to drive me batshit crazy watching Anthony Davis set screens. And when you have a player who is as good in the pick and roll as Austin is, or when you have a player who is as good in the pick and roll as Luka is, if your screen setter is just going out there and like barely tapping somebody and then looking for, a pick and pop or a pick and one-on-one opportunity, like that isn't actually creating an opportunity in that pick and roll moment. Watch DeAndre Ayton set screens. He is wiping dudes out. Austin doesn't get that last shot that he had tonight if Ayton doesn't go out there and wipe McDaniels off of the floor and open up the court for Austin to go around to his left, cross back over to his right, and get into the paint. And like, look, is Anthony Davis a better basketball player? Obviously. Do I miss Anthony Davis's defense? Obviously. But I think in this one specific regard, and it's a very important regard. I think DeAndre Ayton is a lot better at setting screens than Anthony Davis was, and he's a lot more willing. Like he's significantly more willing to stand there and make real contact on the defender that impacts how the other team has to defend that pick and roll now. And like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Austin has blown up offensively the way that he has, given how many opportunities he's had with DeAndre Ayton setting those hard screens. And I think that's going to continue moving forward when Luka comes back and they start staggering Luka and Austin's minutes to where Austin and Ayton get to share more time together on the court. And my hope here is that with Ayton setting those kinds of screens, Jackson starts setting some of those screens just as physically without fouling. He gets his feet set early. He stands there and doesn't stick out his hip, because he got to the spot late. Ayton, being able to set screens or reset screens or understand when to dive on the screen or slip the screen or pop off of the screen, like Ayton's understanding of, his situational awareness in the pick and roll is something that like the Lakers would not have won 2 of their last 3 games without Luka, without. And again, there are other things that go into it, right? Sacramento is going to suck this year. That was such an easy thing to call. And then tonight, obviously Minnesota doesn't have Anthony Edwards, and that's going to help them win more so than DeAndre Ayton setting screens. But they for damn sure don't have an opportunity to win these games without Ayton setting the kinds of screens that he did. And here's hoping those continue. All right. I think that's everybody. I think that was my final, I guess, takeaway here, like going player by player, is I do think that we're starting to learn that Vanderbilt does get better with a few more minutes on the court, and this notion of like putting him out there and just telling him, hey, go play on infinite turbo. I don't think that's a very sustainable approach, and that the Lakers are going to have to figure out a way to get him minutes. I'm fine with him getting minutes instead of Hayes getting any kind of minutes moving forward when more guys are healthy. But yeah, like I just with Vanderbilt, like he needed to play more in the second half, and he needed to play more while Minnesota was cutting into the lead. And I think JJ Redick is going to have to like be more self-aware of his own basketball biases, and he always is going to prioritize spacing, and he needs to be more understanding of a situation where the Lakers were already up double digits, and what you needed there was a little extra defense, not Dalton Knecht's mostly theoretical spacing. But overall, great win here for the Lakers. Let's go ahead and check in on some of your guys's comments and see where we stand here. All right. George Santiago, White Boy Wednesday. I'll take that. That's a funny comment. That exciting whites meme is just too good. Like it's just a hilarious thing that the Lakers have leaned into it to the extent that they have. All right, yeah, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm going to pop off here, record a lowdown, edit, post, all that good stuff. And then tomorrow is Thursday. That's Harrison and I are going to record tomorrow. So that'll be sometime in like the late morning, your guys' time on the West Coast. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and Austin Mother Bleeping Reaves.